This is Genesis Breyer P-Orridge, and you are watching Boing Boing Video.
Jenny Jardin with Richard Metzger and the legendary Throbbing Gristle. You've been touring. We've been hearing a lot about the tour on Twitter, on social networks, seeing videos pop up the day after a show, in some cases actually while the show is happening. Rewind the clock back to the early 1970s. The way to get word out was what? Posters, flyers, this digital way of getting the word out didn't exist. What's this like for you now? Does this feel strange?
I think it's
happened relatively slowly for us, isn't it? So it's not like it's just happened today. So we sort of got used to it fairly quickly.
Except me, who's ignorant and didn't even know what Twitter was until we were on this tour. And some people met us at the airport, remember, in Palm Springs. And there's me going, what? How do they know we were going to be here? And it turned out that Chris had said that the flight was delayed in Dallas. And they'd used that tiny fragment of information on Twitter to backtrack to what flight we must be on and meet us at the airport. Only to give us a gift and be really nice, but it was just, that was my first experience of Twitter.
In the early 70s, I mean, you were known as wreckers of civilization. What does it feel like now to be celebrated as an entity of great cultural importance? I mean, we wouldn't have the term industrial music. No, I don't mean to be sappy about it, but industrial music is something that doesn't even mean the same thing as when you began.
No, it doesn't. Which is a shame.
Do you all see yourself as part of that? Because I don't actually hear you at Nine Inch Nails at all. TG to me is a totally separate thing. It's almost like a classical music thing in a sense. It's got nothing to do with
I think we're very lucky. I think it's gone on so long that we've become separated again from that whole genre of industrial music. And now we're just living legends, which is far more convenient. Not being facetious, but just I think we've been lucky that we've become just Throbbing Gristle again. And people don't pigeonhole us. They don't think that means we're part of this movement or that style. TG is just so varied when you really listen to it, the music.
I mean, if we are a genre, we're Throbbing Gristle. Yeah. You know, that's it.
Now there's lots of ways to persuade.
We asked fans of Throbbing Gristle on the blog and on Twitter if they had questions that we ought to pose to you, and someone was asking how new technologies are sort of absorbed and digested into the creative process for you. Is that something that you tend to resist or that you tend to sort of explore?
No, we embrace that, I think, if anything. We embrace new technologies. Well, we do still use the technologies we used at the time when we started. Sure. Guitars, violins, Jen singing, but we now have laptops, 3 laptops on stage. But we still have a lot of physical things to interact with as well. It's not just software and loops.
They've got these strange little gadgets that they'd have to tell you about, but for me it's exciting to see they physically interact with the laptop. They do things like Sleazy, you'll see him like, and as his arm does that, he can actually affect the laptop as if it was a guitar string.
The instrument that Jen was describing is called a Persephone. It's made in France, and it's a long ribbon controller that it's just very hands-on and it's great fun to play. This morning at like 9 a.m. they released a version of a plugin called Speakerphone, and that was when it was, when they completed their bug testing, and basically it was released to the public, and it'll be on stage later.
That's great. You can find the tools literally when you're on the road. You don't have to hunt down a store to purchase a device or develop it at home in a lab or workshop. You simply download it.
Yeah.
We used to use a unit called the Gristleizer that I built for TG, which was a design and effects unit that was published in an electronics magazine, and I put it in a box and put some nice knobs on it and made one for each of us, and we put the gear through it, and it gave Gristle that early sound. It sort of a chugga sort of grungy sound.
Hence the name Gristle.
Hence the name Gristleizer. And someone recently offered to build reproductions of these Gristleizers, and we got in touch with the guy that designed the original circuit back in the 60s, and they found the parts and they put the whole thing together, and we're going to launch it in Chicago next week.
Now, you all are doing different sets in different cities. Could you describe the different sets that you're doing?
Long ones and short ones.
Well, we have a set list, but because we don't write music, we can't do the same thing twice.
Well, that kind of concentration that you all have was something that you had to develop. I mean, it goes beyond like jazz musicians. I mean, you guys feel like it's like you're like locked in psychically, almost telepathically. How did you go about developing that working relationship originally?
I don't think it wasn't contrived so much as it just developed at its own pace.
It did develop very quickly at the
Yeah.
beginning, though, didn't it?
Yeah.
There was that sort of connection.
All through 1975, we used to meet pretty much every weekend if we could. And then every Friday and Saturday we would just jam. We would build speaker cabinets because we built our own PA and build effects. Chris built his own synth at the
We
beginning.
all got our hands dirty, didn't we?
And we would tape record everything on this cassette recorder just to see what we'd done, because not being musicians, we couldn't remember.
We had hundreds of cassettes.
And so then we'd go back and we'd go to that burger place, wouldn't we?
Wimpy.
Wimpy Bar.
The Wimpy Bar. And then we'd go back to the house and we'd listen to them late at night and think, okay, that bit, we like that bit.
Yeah,
And
that
bounce them
worked.
down onto
I wonder
another
if we
machine.
could do that again. And then we'd edit those down onto a different tape and see the next weekend if we could recreate any of it.
It was just basically going for sounds that gave us a physical and emotional shift that then moved us on to putting another sound with it, and so building up on that, basically.
It was a very good way of working because it meant that very quickly our only frame of reference was our own personal, emotional and intellectual response to the tape.
The working method, this telepathic working method, did you find that after several decades of not working together that you were able to sort of get back into that mindset quickly?
What did you say?
It's like riding a bike,
Riding a
actually.
Really?
Just get back on it again.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but certainly I find that I go into a very similar mental state when I do my own music or in the studio or whatever. Lots of times people ask me, "Oh, how did you make that sound on
yeah.
that record?" And you have
No idea.
no clue whatsoever.
I just remember
Because
being
when
in the
you're
studio.
in the creative place,
Yeah. It's a different zone.
although I think the relationship between the four of us, kind of formed or took us to that place in the first place. I don't think that it's exclusive to TG. I mean, I think that we do it when we're working alone or with others, and I'm sure other people do it as well.
Creatively working together aside, what was it like for your interpersonal relationships to all be working together again?
It's true that some factions within the band were estranged for a long time, and I'm glad to say that we're no longer estranged because we're
We've built
a bit older and wiser and realise the folly of
But the
mankind.
electricity of TG always had an element of friction anyway, right from the beginning.
Partly what made it work.
So
Moody bastards.
Moody bastards.
it's a very odd thing to, for example, with the New York concerts, to get a call and they say, "We're doing 2 gigs. Now we're doing 3 gigs. Did you know Ticketmaster say you're selling faster than Bruce Springsteen?" And it's like, how could that be? And who is it? Who the hell is interested in us to that degree? But there's a whole
I think that's what
huge
Ticketmaster said, actually.
new.
All these
Well, yeah,
things.
that's why they were saying it. Like, what's going on?
Well, the last time that feeling was there was 1981,
Oh,
wasn't it?
yeah. That was it then.
We put the card out.
Well, on that note, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Chris,
Thanks.
Jen, Cosey, Sleazy,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.